Oh, hey, they let me in. This is RamView.
It's hot out here, but let's blow them off the line of scrimmage. Headline, Los Angeles.
Live from the RamCave, I'm Joe Tarosian, and this is RamView, the May 12, 2025 edition, brought to you by Kistler Law Firm. Injured in an auto accident, need help, got questions? Call Kistler Law at 661-206-6990. That's Kistler Law at 661-206-6990. And check out KistlerLawFirm.com. That's one word, KistlerLawFirm.com. Kistler Law, they've been fighting for you since 92. And by Temple City Auto Repair. Having some auto issues? Get yourself some John and Henry at TempleCityAutoRepair.com. All right, it let me through. There must have been someone really special that was waiting to get through, and for some reason YouTube wouldn't let me buffer through it, and finally we did. So we're here. I apologize for something that was out of my hands this time. Usually it's always in my hands, not this time for being late. So everyone's just kind of on pins and needles right now, waiting for news to break about the schedule. I did have some stuff shared with me. Not that I got the scoop. I just had some of you guys share with me that that they're looking at sending the Rams to London to play Jacksonville. If that's the worst of it, okay, it could be worse. You have to go to Brazil, or next year you got to go to, or 2 years you got to go to Australia. You know, London at least is somewhat familiar. I still don't like it. I think it's ridiculous. But the good news with that is not that Jacksonville has this rabid home base. It's not like going to the Dog Pound or playing in Lambeau or the Bills Mafia or, you know, Steeler Town or anything like that. It's London and it's Jacksonville. And so basically works out to a neutral site game. So the Rams have 8 home games, 8 road games, and 1 neutral site game. So that part works out pretty good for them in that regard, if that's how it plays out. And, of course, news broke a little bit today on who's doing the opener between the Eagles, Cowboys, and all that. And then everyone's just waiting. Everyone's just waiting for that schedule drop, because I think it's going to – we could talk for a few weeks on that schedule drop, because, you know, how you play people, when you play them means a lot. Like, when's that Saint game, right? When do you play that Saint game? Because that Saint game – not that the Rams should have any trouble now, but that could be a trap game, right? You got Detroit the next week, and you're looking past New Orleans. You know, anything's possible. It is the NFL, but you know, there's where you play and when you play is highly critical. So we'll have a lot to talk about. Just different little nuggets that have come in today. I do appreciate you guys for clicking on. You know, we saw the news. You know, I'm just looking at some headlines that I saw. I didn't necessarily click on them, so if I get anything wrong here, feel free to correct me. But Sean McVay saying he wants to employ a committee approach at running back. Love the idea. Blake Corum and Kyron Williams, you know, there's maybe, you know, 50 cents difference between them. And then Jarquez Hunter might be a little faster than those guys. So if they're running a 3-headed beast, I'm great with it. I love Kyron Williams, but we do see the limitations. And I know he's gone over 1,000 yards each of the last few years. And that's great. That's great. But, you know, 1,000-yard runners come and go in this league. It's not really about 1,000-yard runners anymore. It's not what it was, sorry to say. But I do like the idea of different looks, different sets, giving the defense more things to think about, multiple looks, right? There's 2 approaches to that. I remember reading about Joe Gibbs, you know, playing that single bat, and he had the U-back going when he was in Washington. And it was like, you know, they run the counter play a lot, but every setup was the same, but you never knew what they were going to do. That's one way of approaching it. Another way of approaching it is just sending out different packages all the time, and different runners, different things. Get them on the field at the same time. This is what I've advocated for the Chargers. You know, you got Omari and Hampton and Najee Harris. Put in packages where they're both on the field at the same time. One flashes out to the slot or something. Do that with these guys. Jarquez Hunter can catch the ball. Kyron Williams can catch the ball. We haven't seen that with Blake Corum yet, but just be multiple in your looks. And as McVay said, he wanted to be more dynamic on offense. Outstanding. Let's be more dynamic. So Things we didn't mention on Friday during the Jared Verse interview. I went back and looked at it again a little bit, reviewed it, so to speak, and with Rich Eisen. And the one I really loved was hearing him say he thinks all day, every day about the playoff loss to the Eagles. And he's not thinking about Bo Limmer. He's thinking about what he did, that he didn't respond, take the right angle, get there quickly. And, that's the sign of a stud. That's the sign of a guy that's a star, right? I remember Howie Long having a line where, he'd had a game where he had 3 sacks. And what bugged him all night was the one that got away where it could have been the 4th sack, right? That's Hall of Fame thought. That's Hall of Fame mentality. That's Pro Bowl mentality. That's a star. And Ram struck gold with Jared Verse. I really loved hearing that. Speaking of Jared Verse, and speaking of the Edge room, the room where the Edge is, I saw the link. I didn't really click on it, but I saw it where it was talking about, hey, Jadeveon Clowney would be a good fit for the Rams to be a veteran presence in that Edge room. Nah, I don't think so. Byron Young's heading into his 3rd year. Verse is mature. He's heading into his 2nd year. I wouldn't do it. And I don't like the way Clowney's bounced around. I think you pay him too much money. If I'm going to take a run at a veteran, I'd rather explore Von Miller, unless something's changed with his status that I've missed or forgotten about. I'd rather go with the guy that we're familiar with, who's been in that locker room before. But no, I'm not into the Jadeveon Clowney. I did see some people upset that Britton Covey was given Cooper Kupp's number. My only thing about that number being given, it's Kupp, but it's a low number, right? And I guess that's what you give receivers, but I don't know. The way you think about it in other sports is that if you're given a low number and not number 96 or something, you're always thinking like, okay, the team thinks something about this guy. And so I'm Xavier Smith, but we'll find out about Britton Covey. But he was given Kupp's number 10. Just another reminder that time is over.
They come and they go, Hobbs. They come and they go.
They come and they go. They come and they go. I don't know how you feel about it. Of course, when you cut your teeth following the Rams, you grew up with players that were with you your entire childhood, right? 7, 8, 9 years, right? I came into the league. I came into watching the league when McCutcheon's a rookie, right? And by the time I'm in the middle of high school, he's traded away, but I had him for like 7 years, 8 years. But it's just the way it works, right? Players come and go, and the Cooper Kupp era is over. All right. Steve Ramirez, run the Bucs sweep. Okay. I'll take it. Absolutely. Tim Burns, strength of schedule is out. We are 13th, but San Francisco has the easiest schedule, and Arizona and the Seahawks are in the easier schedule category. Thoughts? You had to expect this. Rams won the division last year. They're a better team. It's going to happen. But, every year there's a team that surprises, right? Every year there's somebody that pops up. As John Wooden used to say, and I'll take correction, but John Wooden paid more attention to his team and how they performed and what they were going to do rather than what the opponent was going to do. And I look at that. Seattle's banking on Sam Darnold, right? They're banking on a not complete offensive line and their right tackle snapping back to rookie form, which was average at best. And so I'm not sold on Seattle. Tough win, tough place to go, absolutely. But we've seen Sam Darnold. We know the Achilles heel for Arizona, no matter what the schedule is Kyler Murray. We know what that is, right? And I think they failed to get a really complimentary receiver. I mean, they're running Wilson out there. They're running Dortch out there. But they need someone else to complement Marvin Harrison. Now, they got Trey McBride. Cardinals are a good team. But, again, you got Kyler Murray. And the defense has been rebuilt. They play hard. But there's age there. Dalvin Tomlinson a little bit. And, of course, with Calais Campbell, Budda Baker's got mileage. So I'm not fearful of them playing a lesser schedule. I think the 49ers, everyone's talking about the 49ers having a soft schedule because they finished in last place. It's the 49ers. They gave 4 years, roughly 2, to George Kittle. Is George Kittle going to be healthy all year? Is Christian McCaffrey going to come back and be healthy all year? Is Trent Williams going to be healthy all year? Is Nick Bosa going to be healthy all year? Is Fred Warner going to be healthy all year? I mean, this is the 49ers. And the ace in the hole with the 49ers is Kyle Shanahan, right? If a game is close, Kyle Shanahan's going to figure out a way to dub it up. Yeah. So I'm not worried about that right now, right? Let me see the schedule, and then I'll rant and rave. USA expat. Do you consider Kyren Williams a good back or a real offensive weapon? I consider him, he's in between, right? I think he's a tweener. I think he's better than a good back, but I think he's one step short of being elite. I think he'd be more towards he's going to have to demonstrate the ability to hold on to the ball, which I think he will this year. He's that type of player, 5th rounder, Notre Dame, high character dude, realizes what he can be and what he can't be. He's not going to be a home run hitter, right? He's not going to hit the hole and go for 80 yards. He's going to hit the hole and go for 20, which is fantastic. He's got a nose for the end zone. Great. He can do all the other things. Fantastic. What's the thing he can control? Holding on to the ball. I think he's going to do that. And I think he'd be a little more towards elite status if he could hold on to the ball. But he's never going to be someone you break the bank for. Hence Jarquez Hunter, hence Blake Corum. But I do like Kyren Williams a lot. You got to love a guy. It's a 5th rounder, right? 5th rounder. I think it was one of the early versions of Behind the Grind or Path to the Draft or whatever it was. They showed the phone call to him when he was drafted by the Rams a few years ago. That was pretty cool. He's a good dude. Let's see. Michael Negretti. Hola, Pastor Joe. What do you think of the NBA Dallas Mavericks landing the number 1 overall pick after trading away Luka Doncic this year? Can you say rigged? So they did get Cooper Flagg. Okay. I didn't know that. I'm recording Knicks Celtics. I think the Celtics are going to blow them out. I hope not. But don't ruin it for me. But I do know that was right when I was going on the air that they were going to do the lottery. So Cooper Flagg, huh? Good for Cooper Flagg. Yeah, I think that. I don't think it's rigged. I think if they really wanted to rig it, they'd get him to Chicago or something. I think they'd find a way to get him someplace else, one of the major markets. But the guy's only 18 or 19, right? I know he's good, but 18 or 19, I could respect the fact that he put in a year of college and he was making good money there. He's the number 1 overall pick. You've got to go and take the dough. But man, right? I don't know. I hope he's Cooper Flagg and not Randall Flagg. There we go. Tim Burns, what does McVay have to see in the backups for him to give up all those TDs Kyren gives us and we move on? He only has 2 fumbles in 2 years, so that narrative is moot. It's just when those fumbles have come, Tim. It's when those fumbles have come. And, and some of them, the team recovered them. But honestly, it sucks to say.
They come and they go, Hobbs. They come and they go.
That's it. It's like you bring them in, you send them back out, right? You bring in, if a Cooper Kupp can be depreciated, not unappreciated, but depreciated, it's like, you know what? We got to move off of him. And if that trade-off, he's not Jamar Gibbs, right? He's not Saquon Barkley. So you're not going to give him that kind of bread. And then it's like, okay, maybe we deal him. He's going to have a place in this league as long as he's healthy, right? Yeah, you just don't want to break the bank. I'd give him 10 rocks. I wouldn't give him any more than 12 at this point since he drafted Jarquez Hunter. Before the Rams drafted Jarquez Hunter, I would have said up to 13 at the most for 3 years, 3 at 39. But that would have been kind of high. And now, I wouldn't give him much more than 10, 12 tops a year. I like Kyren Williams. I know you like him. But, man, dude, they come and they go, Hobbs. They come and they go. Michael Negretti, speaking of Jadeveon Clowney, no clowns allowed. There you go. You're not going to clown me on that one. There we go. USA expat. Did the majority of versus missed tackles seem to come in the first few games? Yes. Yes, USA. I know you've been with me for a while. Do you remember us sitting in this room in the RamCave? By proxy, you're all in here with me. And we were talking about those first 3 or 4 weeks, going from the week 1, the Cardinal game, even to Chicago. I think it was in week 4, which is a game that still ticks me off. How close he was, how he missed the shot. Same thing with Fisk. And then, everyone's screaming for Shula's head, and we were saying, and hang in there. The tackles they're missing now, they're not going to miss in the second half of the season. And sure enough, that came about. Yeah, he did. Everything tightened up in the second half. Everything did. That was a good show. Let's see. Let's see. Everyone's saying hi. Let's see. Tim Burns, blows my mind. Puka is getting only $976,000 this year. If he plays through the whole year and he's healthy, I imagine after his third year, he's not going to be playing his fourth year on the rookie contract, right? He's not. I give him credit right now for not asking for that deal now, because when did the Rams extend Cup the first time? Was it 2019? Was it 2019? In his third year, and this is Nakua's third year. He's making less than a rock. Yeah, I give the kid credit. He's got a baby on the way. I hope he's married to the mom, and he's going to be there. I'm sure he will. So yeah, he'll be wanting a payday before next season, I think, if he has another solid or great year. Let's see. USA X-Pac. There are only so many numbers, so big deal. I agree with you. That's talking about the Cup number 10 being given. It's just what it is, right? And I think because it's dead period time, everyone gets a little uptight about those things. Manny Correa saying hi to everybody. ESG, what's the Falcons' strength of schedule? Hey, Tim Burns, you're in front of an open computer. Dig up the Falcons' strength of schedule. I'd love to see that. I have not looked that up. That's a great point. ESG. Thank you for sharing that. I should have looked that up. I'm getting lazy. Manuel Correa, Robert Saleh's defense always gives us trouble, but he's losing pieces. He's losing now. They drafted that Michael Williams. I read a story. I think it was a 49ers Wire or something. They're saying he's going to need some time to develop. Bosa. Bosa's not dominant. Bosa's good. Fred Warner's getting older. They're replacing Javarius Ward. I know they kept Lenore. They're replacing Hafanga. Tayshaun Gibson's gone. I agree. Saleh knows his business, but I think this is also a better Rams offense. This is probably the best Rams offense we've seen since 2021. Wouldn't you agree? I think so. I think also it might be a little bit better in the sense that we're better in the backfield. I think we're better and deeper at tight end, right? I won't say wide receiver because, Kupp was having the greatest receiving year in history. But Saleh's going to have to deal with that Rams defense now. And so, but I give him credit. I do like Robert Saleh. Tim Burns, ESG, Falcons have the fourth easiest schedule. Mr. Burns, that's not the news I wanted to hear. That's not the news I wanted to hear. Steve Ramirez, that's when Saka had top weapons. The 49ers D doesn't. Yeah, I think we just talked about that there, Tim. Steve, you nailed it too. Tim Burns, who was a better quarterback, David or Derek Carr? Well, we'll never know about David Carr. We'll never know about David Carr because David Carr got murdered in Houston, right? Derek Carr, I would say, was better, but he got murdered in silver and black. There was a time there where David Carr was looking elite. He was looking really good, but the Raiders were so bad. And that dude took a lot of punishment. I'm sorry for him. He reminds me of some of those 70s quarterbacks and early 80s guys that they just never got a shot with a good team, a Lynn Dickey type, right? Throw the ball, make plays, but just never played with a good enough team and got the snot beat out of them. Tommy Kramer a little bit because he played on some bad Viking teams. Just those guys that they played their career, and if they had just landed someplace else, it would have been different. It would have been a lot different. Let's see. Michael Negretti agrees. Derek Carr. Steve Ramirez. Mavs need a point guard more. They slipped a lot when Kyrie went down. So would the Mavs parlay Cooper Flagg to one of these other teams, maybe in the Eastern Conference, maybe Detroit for Cunningham? What would they do? Would you do something like that? That would be pretty interesting. Michael Negretti, both cars are Bulldogs. Go Bulldogs. Yeah. Are you part of the red wave there, Mr. Negretti? My niece used to have tickets there. Michael Gutierrez. Let's see. Only other Rams schedule news I saw this week. that the Rams are on the road in week 2 since SoFi Stadium is booked. Oh, that's good homework, man. That's really good. That's good homework. No, I did not know. That's something to see. Thank you, Micah. ESG, is Hunter a home run hitting back? He's got 4.4 speed, which makes him much faster than Corum and definitely Williams. You have to wonder what was the reason that he dropped to that round. It was a deep draft for running backs and needs superseded some talent and some issues, but he did drop to the fourth round. Let's see. Willie Bone, what's up, Tim? Okay. USA X-Pac, clutch players rise to the occasion when the biggest game is on the line. That is not Kyron. Oh, there we go. I think we could all go back and forth on Kyron Williams, right? I think we can. I just don't want any argument that he's not a good running back. He's a really good running back, really good, and especially the value. I think maybe that's it too. 5th round guys don't do what he's done. Steeler fan Rob, ignoring the joy of relishing the fact that George Pickens is no longer in Pittsburgh, instead wants to troll me and say, Joe, do you want to play-by-play on the Celtics-Knicks game? No, I do not want to play-by-play. Tim Burns, I saw the stat that said that's Kanata Mumpfield, the wide receiver, 7th round, 25th in FBS and intermediate routes, could be why he was taken. Yeah, I heard he's a good jump ball guy. He's a good guy that wins confrontations for the ball. Michael Negretti, the Rams defense tightened up like a fat woman getting a tummy tuck. Okay. Or I'm not sure what that one's related to, but I'll take that one. Tim Burns, the NFL plans more Saturday games. Is it smart to go against college football? Yeah, they win against NFL's going to win against everything. Everyone should be paying tribute. Adam Silver should be offering some gold on the side to Roger and the NFL Players Union retirement to say, hey, if I give you this, will you on Christmas, right? College football might want to do the same. I like college football. I do, but I think the 32 teams, a set playoff structure, no NCAA garbage, none of that stuff. The NFL is always going to kick college footballs, but I don't like it because, I can't control my schedule all the time. So, that's why I don't like them playing on Saturdays. Maybe at the end of the seasons, week 16 and 17. Let's see. USA Expat. One key injury can completely change schedule strength, especially early in the season. We know that as Ram fans, right? The 2022 offensive line chainsaw massacre. Steve Ramirez. Archie Manning got traded too late, but he was a good quarterback on a very bad team. Classic example, right? Classic example. And then he gets traded to Houston at the end of Earl Campbell's Love You Blue run, right? And then he gets to Minnesota briefly, I think, just when the Les Steckel era and the end of I think Bud Grant came back for one season, and that was it for Archie Manning. But that was, Archie Manning's career. Yeah, I remember a Football Digest cover when they used to send out Football Digest. It was about this big and stuff, and it says the agony of Archie Manning, and it was true. It was true. Let's see. Bill, thanks, Bill, for chiming in. Good to have you. Do the Rams get an opening day home game? If they're going to have to go to Australia, give them a home game, right? And as was pointed out there, who did that? Who knocked that sucker out for me? Was it ESG that talked about SoFi being booked for the second week? So give them a home game week 1. And they were on the road for both games to start the season last year. Then they came up to the 49ers. Then in week 4, 3 road games out of the first 4, they played Chicago and gave that one away. So they should get an opening game at home. Knock it out. Michael Negretti, Pastor Joe, I'm telling you who's winning the Celtics and Knicks right now, the team with the most points. Oh, yeah, there you go. ESG, I prefer the NFL only time I would watch college is when the Trojans are in the hunt. And now that's been a little difficult the last few years with USC. Tim Burns, I say lock Kyron up when we transition to a new quarterback in 2 years. We'll need a running back that can be turned to make it easier on the new QB. The thing is that how much in 2 years what kind of shape is Kyron going to be in? Second contracts for running backs work for Derek Carr and Saquon Barkley. Do they work for a guy that's built like Kyron Williams? That's something that you got to think about there, right? Oh, yeah, that's something you got to think about. All right, I'm Joe Terosian, a sports writer for 21 years. I still do. I contribute to Mid-Valley Sports. I helped found it. I'm just kind of contributing there now. I don't call the shots over there. So check that out. Mr. Burns writes Ram notes. He did a great one last week on Torrey Holt versus the Hall of Fame. It took a ton of hits. And he also writes a baseball column there as well about the Oakland A's. And I contribute FanView and different things here and there. So check us out over there. We're here because of our sponsors at Kistler Law, and I can't say thank you enough to them and the support they give us. And there has their sponsorship. And then you guys buy my books. You guys are buying my books, right? Be sure to buy my books. They're on Amazon, and I've written 3 football novels, 2 about high school football, 1 about the Rams. I wrote a Rams novel talking about the Rams playing a fictional NFC championship game against the Green Bay Packers. So check that one out. It basically covers the nightmare of watching a game with riffraff. You ever had to watch a football game with people who were just there for the commercials? Yeah, and weren't Ram fans? That's why the RamCave was built. Absolutely. All right, so we do that, and that all supports me in my day job. My day job is I pastor a small church in Burbank Faith Nazarene, and we're right here on YouTube at Burbank Faith Virtual, burbankfaithvirtual.com, and Burbank Faith Virtual all across social media. Also, we are on Spotify, believe it or not. I don't think the world knows it, but we are on Spotify. We're like the Pitcairn Island lost in the Pacific, but we are on Spotify, so check us out on Spotify. From the RamCave, it's called, and it's the audio version of this show as we try to build our footprint and just making you guys aware of those things. Around the NFL, other places, Derek Carr retired, and we talked about that briefly in the comment box there, guys. I am kind of bummed for him. I think he was a stand-up dude. I think he was a better than average quarterback. I think if he had been someplace else, career would look a lot different. Let's say he was the guy. Well, no, the Giants went into the toilet after Eli Manning went down. But let's just say he went someplace, right? Someplace else other than Las Vegas or Oakland at the time. And it's just a bummer. And then, the way they put him in the street. Was that a Josh McDaniels special? Is that how that worked out again? Was that like when he got rid of Jay Cutler? Whoever did that was just weak sauce because Derek Carr poured it into that organization. And then of all places, have to go to New Orleans, right? What a bummer. We all used to play in the backyard or play sports or shoot baskets alone, throw the ball against the wall and imagine what we do. None of us ever imagine having a career that turns out like Derek Carr's, where you're good, but no one ever knows it, right? They're never going to see how good you can be. Derek Carr retires. Raiders sign former Cowboys draft pick Jalen Smith. Remember, he was a second rounder of the Cowboys way back when. What's his name? Jerry Jones took a shot on him, had a great second year, extended him, and then he died on the vine. I think they extended him in 2019. And by 2021, they kicked him to the curb, and he has bounced around everywhere in the league. In fact, he was even with the Raiders for a while, and now the Raiders have re-signed Jalen Smith. I always thought, man, would the Rams take a shot at him? And I don't know if it's an attitude or I don't know what it was with him, but he was physically, he was a guy that could play. And a new regime now with the Raiders, now the Pete Carroll regime, is taking a shot with Jalen Smith. It'll be interesting to see if they can revitalize this dude's career and get some clicks out of him. And that could only help the Raiders. Raiders, again, I've said it, are a really interesting team this year. In fact, that whole AFC West is insane. NFL announced that the Eagles will host the Dallas Cowboys on Thursday night in week 1. Glad it's not the Rams. I didn't think it would be the Rams since we're playing the Eagles in Australia next year. I say we, the royal we. Dallas going to Philly, right? Can we have body bag game part 2, right? How do you see that one working out, right? I get the feeling that game might be so bad that Brian Schottenheimer gets lamed Kiffined on the tarmac in that game. Some people are saying Dallas could surprise. If I'm looking for a team to surprise in the NFC East, I'm thinking the Giants, right? I'm not saying playoffs, but I'm saying it's not going to be the Cowboys. And then, of course, we get to this part here. If you were the Saints or even the Steelers, wouldn't you take a run at Carson Wentz at this point, right? Wouldn't you take a run at him, an exploratory there? I'm guessing the dude is more toxic than acid rain because I can't figure it out. That has to be the only reason that he's not being signed. The Sporting News on Saturday said the Steelers had some interest in Wentz, and Spot Track only lists his market value at 1.9. So if a dude is that cheap, who is an NFL caliber starting quarterback, NFL talent at starting quarterback, if the dude is that cheap, why not bring him in unless he's just bad news? He's the Marvin Barnes of the 21st century. Carson Bad News Wentz. That's all I could think of as why he wouldn't get a shot. And the Saints, think about the Saints right now. The Saints are going to go into the season with Louisville quarterback Tyler Shough. They're going to go into this with Spencer Rattler. They're going to go into this with Jake Hayner. What a nightmare. I'm sure Kellen Clemens is thrilled, right? Kellen Clemens has to be jazzed, right? They need to start the sell-off, man. Stop playing around. Trade off, Alvin Kamara. Make your deals. Get built up for the 2026 draft like the Steelers are doing, right? The Steelers are kind of covertly tanking, it seems like, if you're going to go to war with Mason Rudolph. I don't know. Let's see if we get Steeler fan Rob mad at me. Next bit here, I wanted to talk about the Giants a little bit, but let's go to your questions. They keep piling up there. Don't want to ignore you guys. Tim Burns, I say lock Kyron up. Oh no, you said that one. Bill, will Willie Lampkin play fullback if he makes the team? From your lips to the Lord's ears, according to Willie Bowen, man, you're getting Willie all excited. A Willie Lampkin supporting a Willie Bowen at fullback. Yeah, there you go. Steve Ramirez, better to draft a dog running back when we get the quarterback in 2026. And again, just because, again, what's his name? Derrick Henry, King Henry. He's an outlier, right? Saquon Barkley is someone I had my doubts about. Barkley. He was an outlier, and he was fantastic last year. Who's next? 32 teams in the NFL. Who's next? Okay. I mean, who are the guys? McCaffrey's old and busted, right? Jahmyr Gibbs, he's going to his third year. He's new hotness, but maybe Jahmyr Gibbs, but he's not going to be getting those kind of touches that those guys get. I like the whole committee thing. I really do. I really like the whole committee thing. And it just allows you to plant your resources in other places. ESG, Carr is an unlucky Brock Purdy, meaning he had to play for bad organizations. Yeah, he did. And Purdy landed in a pretty good spot, right? I think the talk on Purdy now is about 48 to 50 million. I hope the kid gets his money for two reasons. One, he's earned it in the realm of how we gauge contracts in the NFL nowadays. Absolutely, he's earned it. But I hope he breaks the bank. I want him to get 55. I want the 49ers to give him a ton of money. I want the 49ers to do what they always do, spend foolish money. That's what the 49ers do. And so yeah, give him the bag, man. Give him everything you can. I think he's a good quarterback, right? And again, I'll make the argument. Super Bowl 58 wasn't lost because of Brock Purdy. Brock Purdy did everything he could to make his team win that game. Kyle Shanahan lost that game for his team. Let's see. Bill, I have a strong feeling that the Rams will pick up a veteran wide receiver, possibly Keenan Allen or Amari Cooper. Really, do you see that right now, Bill? Injuries, yes. An injury happens, I can see anything happening. I really can. But this is the wide receiver room. I was just looking at it again today. Puka Nacua, Devontae Adams, Jordan Whittington, Tutu Atwell. And then you got Xavier Smith. You've drafted Kanata Mumpfield. You've just signed Britton Covey. I got to believe just as a returner, but I don't think they would use a guy just to be a returner on the squad. Smith did get some snaps. From the practice squad, Drake Stoops and Quintez Cephas from last year. And then the UDFA guys this year, Mario Williams, True Edwards, and Brennan Presley. I don't expect anything from those guys, but maybe a Keenan Allen or a Amari Cooper if a Puka or a Devontae go down, or even a Jordan Whittington goes down. And again, how many snaps, are you taking away from Tutu out? You gave him $10 million this year. I don't see the Rams making that. If there's an injury and those guys are still floating, absolutely. But man, that would be really, anything's possible, but wouldn't that be really weird to bring in Devontae Adams, keep Tutu Atwell with Nakua, with Whittington, and then bring in an Amari Cooper or a Keenan Allen? If you have a Keenan Allen that only plays on third down, I guess so, but the roster spot becomes kind of tricky. And again, I think we saw some of Xavier Smith last year. I think Mr. Burns talked about it. Some of you guys really like Xavier Smith. I do too. I thought he was the heir apparent to Tutu Atwell. Michael Negretti, Pastor Joe, the Rams should draft a quarterback in the upcoming draft. Let him sit behind Matthew Stafford for a year, give Stafford a chance to win a Super Bowl in Levi or SoFi or both. I think that's kind of the plan. If we talked about this a couple weeks ago, if Stafford lights it up this year, shows no sign of any kind of age or regression, I could see the Rams spending a third or fourth round pick on a quarterback, but I don't see, Coward made this point. If Stafford is playing super well and you win and he wants to come back, my feeling would be if I'm him, I'd be surprised his wife said, honey, you've had enough, get out. Then the Rams would use those 2 draft picks to make a move. And don't just think if there's a quarterback out there they really want and they have to make a move in 2026. They have 2 number ones in 26, and they also got another number 1 in 27 that's still available to them as capital. But if Stafford has a great season, say the Rams win the Super Bowl and he wants to come back, Coward made the argument. It was a really interesting argument. He said, why mess with it? Extend Stafford by getting him better players in the offensive line, better receivers, keep continuing to put a better team around him. It's an interesting thing. Stafford's turning into an outlier, actually. Tim Burns, I feel both cars were better than the stats and time in the league showed us. I felt David was better, but got creamed too early. His career to have numbers like Derek did. Derek had O-line issues too, and he was just in Oakland, right? What a disaster! One disaster after another. Absolutely. Tribe, hey, thanks Tribe for clicking on. What do we got here from Tribe? Joe, we had so many primetime games last year. I wouldn't mind if we had just had like 2 or 3 this season. I agree, but the NFL is going to do what the NFL is going to do. And, the Rams are interesting. I've never seen a team I hate to use this word because I never think about it personally or something, but you ever seen a team get more disrespected than the Rams, right? There's a few people out there that talk about how good the Rams are, how good they run their organization. Coward's one of them, maybe a couple others. But for the most part, the KBM, the media always discounts the Rams, always, right? I think they'd had a heart attack if the Rams had won that game in Philly last year. I think they would have, right? And then you ever notice how they completely dismiss Matthew Stafford over and over again? There was a ridiculous thing that came back, who's best in the fourth quarter and points per attempts, something that came out a week. It was so stupid, I wouldn't even acknowledge it because it had Dak Prescott and some other stiffs ahead of Matthew Stafford. Stafford was like rated 10th or 12th out of 15. And it's like, really? Outside of Mahomes, Josh Allen, not even Joe Burrow. I'll take Matthew Stafford as the quarterback I want down the stretch. And Rams completely get disrespected over and over again, but they'll put them on primetime, right? So, I don't know. I don't know. I like my games in the 1 o'clock window on Sunday. There you go. Because then I can come home from work and have lunch and watch the game, right? And then get planned for the next day. Sunday night games, I don't like it because I'm waiting for it to start. And then I got to go to bed angry if it doesn't work out the way I want it to. Monday night games aren't so bad. I don't like the Sunday night games. And the Thursday night games are great if we win. Because if you win, then it makes the weekend great, right? You just kick back for the weekend. Michael DeGretti, Pastor Joe. Pastor Joe wants to see the 49ers in Cap Hell. Go Winers. Yes, absolutely. Mikey Gutierrez. will be really interesting to see the debut of the rivalry in uniforms this year. I do hope it's the blue and white. I do. Yeah, just for fun. Let's see. Tim Burns. So we have Darnold, Murray, and Purdy for 6 games this year. Exactly. I love the Rams' chances, just like you with that, Mr. Burns. Absolutely. Mr. Burns comes back again. KBM dismisses the Rams and worships Dallas. It's Jerry Jones every time he rips one. Okay. There you go. That's funny. Okay. Winding through here. Wow, we had 40 minutes. I did not think we'd get to 40 minutes this week. I wanted to talk about the Giants, and I didn't get a chance because Mr. Burns is going to be all excited here, and I didn't do it for you, Mr. Burns, but Cam Scadaboo, did you see that he was at a presser over the weekend and some reporter asked him, and it was a fair question, you're still going to have that chip on your shoulder that helps you. You know, this guy went from Sacramento State down to Arizona State to national platform in that game again, that Arizona State playoff game, I think against Texas. It was a great game. And Scadaboo had a great remark. He said, you know, how many snaps have I played in the NFL? How many snaps have you seen me play in the NFL? And he's basically saying that chip's going to stay there. And I don't know if he's going to have a long career, but I could see him having a rookie contract career, 4 years, and I could see him doing a lot of damage those first 3 before the body starts giving out. So I definitely think that was a good move by the Giants. And in fact, the Giants are a team. Now, I don't like Abdul Carter being drafted when you got Kayvon Thibodeau and Brian Burns. I'd have done something else there. But I do like Jackson Dart, and Dart's impressed so far this season. They drafted Scadaboo this offseason. I'm sorry. Scadaboo in the 4th round. They got a DT from Toledo, Darius Alexander, who a lot of us had talked about or had been mentioned quite a bit. I like the Giants draft. I really do. I think it was a great draft. And I think, you know, give them 2 wins over the Cowboys. We got that. Okay. Said and done. But then what happens afterwards? And then their schedule's probably going to be a bit light. I do think they're going to bounce back. I'm not saying they're a playoff team, but if they go 8-9, if they find a way to go 8-9 or 7-10 and end on a positive, everyone's going to be very upbeat about the Giants going forward. Because sooner or later, a lot of those Eagle contracts are going to start coming due, and the Taxkins have to take the next step. And the Cowboys are almost as lost at sea as we're as bad as I am on Spotify, right? And so, no, I do think the Giants could surprise. I'm not rooting for them, but it would be kind of funny to see Jackson Dart have a great rookie year. And then see the Saints who passed on him and the Steelers who passed on him, get a little frustrated there with their teams because you chose Tyler Shugg or you chose Mason Rudolph over Jackson Dart. I got to admit, the spiteful side of me is wanting that one. And then out of Bengal land, right? You know, if you want something wrong, you always go to the Bengals, right? We talked about Shamar Stewart not signing his contract, not wanting to practice until the contract was signed. And I talked about how when you saw him on draft night, he had a bunch of attitude that he better back up. Well, then the word broke that Trey Hendrickson had said he's not spoken to the team since the draft. And I understand they did all their stuff. You know, Burrow's got the mega contract. Lamar Chase got the mega contract. T. Higgins got a big contract. And it's like, man, find the money and keep Trev Hendrickson, right? Find the money. I don't know what you have to do. Sell Paul Brown's bowler hat. Do something. Get this guy taken care of if you're the Bengals. I got a friend, Andy Villanueva. We call him Villa the Devil. He lives in Houston. He buys season seats to the Bengals every year, sells half of them, and he's always hoping. But if you could bring back Trev Hendrickson, if Shamar Stewart can be what he says he's going to be, and then they also drafted, this was the guy that I really liked, number 49 overall, 2nd round, Demetrius Knight Jr. They drafted him, and I think he's going to be pretty good. They'll have enough on that defense to compete. But if you don't keep Trev Hendrickson, I don't understand. You know, I don't know. The Bengals are always that team that surprised me. I just don't think, you know.
I don't think he's tough enough, Holmes. I don't think he's got enough heart.
I don't think they got enough heart. I just do not think they got enough heart. I think the Bengals should get out. The Browns should sell the Bengals. There we go. Michael Negretti, Pastor Joe, I like the Rams getting disrespected. Me too. Yeah, it's true. It gives them a chip on their shoulder. Plus, they don't have the pressure like other teams. Chris Childress, I would love to see white and blue rivalry uniforms. I would too. That would be awesome. That would be a nice throwback because I never really got to see anything live with those that really register with me. You know, I've seen some games on YouTube and briefly in 72, but I'd love to see that, right? And get rid of anything else, right? Just keep it simple. Keep it simple. Let's see, moving on here real quick, still around the NFL and other places. Mavericks won the draft lottery, so they get the first pick. What can I say about the NBA Finals, playoffs? Pacers look great. Nuggets look tired. Warriors look old. Cavaliers look lost. Wolves and Thunder look young. Knicks are trying, right? They're that team that says, you know, as long as I got a cup of coffee and another day on the calendar, we'll keep trying. I love the Knicks. I want them to win. I think the wins in Boston were flukes. Honestly, I'm going to root for them all the way. I'm not promising anything. Celtics look confused, at least up till game 3. Note to the Lakers, though, right? There's always that buzz. This is what I would do, right? Trade LeBron. Trade him to the Celtics. Ask for Jaylen Brown. Now, I don't know if the contracts match up, but trade him to the Celtics for Jaylen Brown. LeBron could be the facilitator. He has big guys there. He has a guy in Tatum he can dish the ball to. He can be the glue guy and the facilitator, and none of the pressure will be on him, which LeBron loves. LeBron does not thrive under pressure. And then the Lakers get a bomber that knows how to play with a number one like Jaylen Brown. How about that trade, right? I'll take that one. Brown's 6'6", gamer, smart player, all kinds of stuff there that I like about that one. What do you think about that one, Laker hunks? There you go. Okay, working my way through the schedule here, basically before we get to the end of the broadcast. What do you think about when I mention these teams? What's the first thing you think about? When I say Saints, as a Rams fan, what comes to mind, right? What comes to mind for me is that the Superdome was always a house of horrors. And now I think Nickel, Roby, Coleman. Buccaneers, what comes to mind when you think of the Rams? It used to be the NFC Championship game. Now it's the for love of the gameplay, right? Lions, what comes to mind when the Rams play the Lions? I don't have one. I think of Thanksgiving 75, the game I missed. Rams, Texans, I don't really have one. Rams, Colts, what comes to mind? I think of the Nakua game 2 years ago, and then the Nick Scott game 4 years ago when the Super Bowl run, when the bad snap and the Colts came back briefly under Carson Wentz, and that snap on a punt went off Nick Scott's thigh. And I remember everyone in Ramland was yelling for Nick Scott to be released. And then by the end of the year in the NFC Championship game, he's decapitating, de-chesting Deebo Samuel with probably the greatest hit of the modern era. When I think of the Panthers, I don't really have one. When I think of the Falcons, yeah, I think of Nick Mickemeyer. Yeah, I saw that game. When I think of the Eagles, I think the Rams traded Roman Gabriel there. When I think of the Jaguars, we got Jalen Ramsey from there. When I think of the Titans, I'm glad Mike Vrabel's gone. And, of course, the Super Bowl, yes. And then when I think of the Ravens, I think of a block in the back in 2023 that gave them a punt return for a touchdown in overtime. There you go. What do you think? You don't have to answer it all today, but what do you think about the Rams' opponents when they play them? And those are teams they're playing this year. I omitted the Seahawks, 49ers, Cardinals because they are division foes. Let's see. USA expat KBM also seems to worship the Niners. Yeah, don't you think Kyle Shanahan's just a smidgen overrated? Just a smidgen there. ESG, Giannis doesn't look like he's going back to Milwaukee, but I don't think the Lakers have enough to offer. I'm not a Laker fan anymore. Not really a huge NBA fan. I like watching the Pacers. I like watching the Knicks. I'm not a Golden State Warrior fan, but Steph is fun to watch. But at this point in his career, I guess he would be a great addition. But do you want Giannis? What would you have to give, right? Give them LeBron. Do you see LeBron, Giannis, and Doncic playing together? That one's kind of interesting. Michael Negretti, Manning. You think Manning when you think of New Orleans? Is that what you think of, Michael? On the Lions, I think of stupid coach blowing a lead to the 49ers. I can't stand the Lions coach. Dan, you know what, Michael? That playoff game, if Josh Reynolds doesn't drop 2 passes, that playoff game works out different. Because Dan Campbell did what the Lions have been doing all year, and it worked. And then Josh Reynolds dropped 2 passes, and then his butt was sent to Denver or released, and he signed with Denver the following year. And now I don't know where he's at now. I know he's someplace. Did he end up in Kansas City or someplace? I'm not sure where he's at now. Let's see here. Bills. With the Saints, it's Sean Payton rubbing it in our faces and running up the score on us, even in a preseason when he coached Denver. I hate Sean Payton. Okay, that's fair. That's fair. Yeah, I remember that though. That Denver playout, that Denver preseason game, and all the crack of doom, man. Everyone, of course, that was the year everyone said the Rams were going to win 4 games, especially Vegas. Yeah, I remember that. Okay, let me get to this real quick, and then I'll get to your final questions.
It was a stone group, my man.
Let's see here. We have exceeded the 50-minute mark. On this day, May the 12th, 1977, guess who the Rams signed? Guess who the Rams signed May the 12th, 1977? Put your answers in the box. That's about the only thing that happened on this day in Rams history. May 13th, we're not on the air tomorrow. Rams signed undrafted free agent Ethan Westbrooks. He played 5 years with the team. We talked about him. They chose him over Michael Sam that year. On May 13th, 2021, the Rams signed undrafted free agent Alaric Jackson out of Iowa. Man, foresight, huh? Let a guy develop, and now you just gave him a 3-year contract to be your left tackle. And then tomorrow, born in 1992, Rob Havenstein turns 33. Now, he's been with the team. This will be his 11th season. It feels like he's been here forever because he has. Who sticks with the franchise for 11 years anymore? But he's only 33. So, man, if he squeezed out 2 more years with Rob Havenstein, wouldn't you feel good about that? I'd feel good about that. I'd feel really good about that. All right, let's get to some final questions here. Let's see if you guys got it. Who the Rams signed on May 12th, 1977. Steve Ramirez, Saints, I think of Manning's TD in the 1971 Oper, which should have been ruled no TD. On YouTube, you can watch that. Bill, ESG, when I think of the Patriots, I think of that boring Super Bowl where they beat us. You know, I've argued that with a lot of folks. I wasn't bored in that Super Bowl because it always seemed like at some point we're going to break through. And, you know, if Goff isn't late getting that pass to Brandon Cooks, right, and McCourty can't respond, it's a different ball game, right? I understand. I feel like Wade Wilson doesn't get enough credit for the job he did that day, right? Of course, Julian Edelman killed us. You know, I was posting online asking, why can't we jam him? And coaches are telling me really hard to jam a slot guy like that. I'd have taken 15 and just leveled him, right? Of course, Julian Edelman would have just gotten up, but he killed us in that game. But yeah, I always thought we had a shot, and I thought Wade Phillips did a great job. Did I call him Wade Wilson? Wade Phillips did a great job. Let's see here. Steve Ramirez, and Steve wins the cigar. Yes, the Rams on this day in 1977 signed Joe Namath. It lasted 4 games, ended on a rainy Monday night in Chicago, and Ram fans were clamoring for him to be put in during the Mud Bowl because his hands were bigger than Pat Hayden's. Hayden was brutal that day. And, of course, we had to listen to it on the radio because it was blacked out by the NFL. But if you ever get a chance, you can find it in old Los Angeles Times articles. You can find it in I think it's a Sports Illustrated article that was written about Pat Hayden. Certain Hall of Famer, NFL legend, Super Bowl winner, Joe Namath is benched after week 4, replaced by Pat Hayden. Hayden and Chuck Knox said you couldn't have found a classier dude who was helpful and positive the whole time he was with the team. And I always like to make sure I mention that because, yeah, it didn't work out. But I always thought Joe Namath, in spite of his issues with a few too many drinks, is a good dude. And I thought that showed he was a football player first, and he cared about the team. And again, like Derek Carr a little bit, I'm sorry it had to end that way. Wouldn't it have been marvelous? You need to write an alternate history. Rams win the Mud Bowl, and Joe Namath takes the Rams to the Super Bowl. Steve Ramirez, let me ask you, if the Rams won the Mud Bowl, would Dallas have had to come to LA? Or because we beat the Cowboys? No, we didn't play them in 77. Would the Cowboys have to come to the Rams in 77, or would we have had to go to Irving? Let me know that, Steve. You would know that. Let's see here. Let's see. Michael Negretti. I think of the Saints. I think of Manning. Okay. Tim Burns. When did McVay abandon the run with CJ and Gurley? Well, man, he went away from CJ completely, right? He did. And then if you remember that game, McVay kept running play action, and he never ran the ball. He stopped running the ball. That was the early McVay. Remember, McVay would have those lapses where he stopped running. Remember the Tampa Bay game in 2019, where I think Goff threw 67 passes, and I think there were times people had in his coaching staff had to say, Sean, dude, you can't completely move away from. That's a place where McVay has grown, and that happened a lot in his first few years, where he abandoned the run, and he did that in the Super Bowl. But what was doubly upsetting in that was he kept running play action. And it's like, if you're not, you got to run, even if it's for 2 yards or no gain, you got to at least keep up the appearances that you could run the ball. Let's see. Michael Negretti, 1977. The Rams signed Joe Pantyhose Namath. Yes, they signed Namath. Tim Burns. So did Namath start the trans trend? Hey, lay off Namath, man. Lay off Namath. You know, Namath's going to pass someday, and you're going to say, oh, I was always a Joe Namath fan. Nah. Steve Ramirez, no, Rams would have gone to Dallas, which had the best record in 77. That might have been tough, huh? Harvey Martin and Ed Tuttle were in their prime in those days. Dorsett was a rookie. What do you think? Although, when the Rams went to Dallas in those days, in the 70s, for a playoff game, outside of actually in 73, you get past the turnovers on their first 2 possessions, they outplayed the Cowboys until Steve Priest went for the pick instead of the hit on Drew Pearson. And then they won there in 76 and they won there in 79. Would you give away that game to the Cowboys in 77 if it was an NFC championship game? Rams always found a way to get up for those games. What a hurrah it would have been for Namath, huh? Get back to a Super Bowl? Get back to a Super Bowl? Yeah, that would have been awesome. Let's see. Tim Burns, Steve has knowledge. Steve does have knowledge. Steve is there. Steve, I'll tell you why Steve has knowledge, because Steve feels it in his bones, right? Like Jared Verse says, I've thought about that forever. I think Steve's a bit manic, like most of us, where it's like, I can't get over this. I can't. His issue, I always bring up Eddie Brown hanging Rod Perry out to dry in Super Bowl 14. His is the third quarter pick 6 that Cromwell dropped. And that was a big one. And that one, but it was easier for me to hate Eddie Brown than it was to hate Nolan Cromwell. Right? But yeah, Steve knows the stuff. Steve Ramirez, Rams were 2-1 in the playoffs in Dallas in the 70s. Yeah. And that 73 game, they played like a young team, and they went down and they made it 17-16, and they were rallying and they had come back. And then that pass to Drew, the thing that made Drew Pearson's career, right? Because Otto Stowe went out with an injury, and Drew Pearson was the guy that replaced him that season. And that was the game that made Drew Pearson a star in Dallas. And, Eddie McMillan's trailing. Steve Priest is coming this way. He's bracketed. He's right there. And Priest, I think it was a picture in the Times. You see him going for the interception. He whiffs, knocks out McMillan, and Drew Pearson goes to the house. Not that I, remember anything like that. It just makes me angry. All right, guys. I think we've exhausted this. We've hit the 58-minute mark. Hey, what show goes 58 minutes just rapping with you? Is that awesome or what? Thanks for joining us. Check out From the RamCave. Check out our books online. Support Kistler Law. And guys, we will be back on Wednesday. And of course, the schedule will have dropped, and we will have all kinds of stuff to talk about. Would the Rams have won the Super Bowl if they had Stafford instead of Goff? Yes. Rams would have won Super Bowl 53 with Stafford. Talk to you guys.